rusty at this.
I know, it's been a while.
Hello, and welcome to Retroscoping, a podcast tracing the
So rusty.
Hello, and welcome to Retroscoping, a podcast tracing the evolution of feature animation. We are journeying through the films of the studio that started it all, Walt Disney Studios. This week, we're delving into film number 15, Lady and the Tramp. But first, a bit about us. I'm Nathan, your host.
And I'm Alexa.
The other host.
Presumably.
So tell me, Alexa, why are we qualified to host this podcast?
We are qualified to host this particular podcast because we have just rescued a little furry friend ourselves.
It's true. We have, as of this recording, just gotten our first pet together.
We've welcomed little cat Stanley into our home.
So you may hear some amount of pawing or meowing or zipping about or otherwise destroying the relative calm of our recording. You can blame Stanley.
He is a delight. Yep, he's a delight.
Perfectly timed.
He's very chatty, very zoomy, and all around pretty darn cute and making our lives a better place.
It's an excellent time to adopt an animal now that we are all stuck at home forever and ever. Amen. So if you would like an animal to keep you company and an animal you can keep company, now is an excellent time.
Yeah, obviously Stanley's a cat. He is not a dog. I consider myself a dog person, but this apartment does not allow dogs. And I also just consider myself an animal person, so...
If we were smart, we would have worked really hard to be up to the Aristocats by the time we got a cat. But alas, we are not talking about the Aristocats today. We are talking about 1955's Lady and the Tramp, a dog movie for dog people.
I'm a dog person.
In theory. A dog person with a cat.
I am an animal person. That is my decision. I mean, I would also be a penguin person and a monkey person and a turtle person.
California has really strict rules about what kind of animals you can actually own and adopt. Alas, I could not adopt one of those domesticated Russian foxes.
Yeah, see, we're fox people.
Even though we're running a Disney podcast. But Disney owns Fox.
And has plenty of Fox characters. So it's all in the family.
So Lady and the Tramp premiered June 22nd, 1955, on a budget of about $4 million.
Critics apparently were not, thrilled with this movie. They didn't have a lot of nice things to say about it. But people, the audiences, voted with their dollars. And by golly, did they love this movie. If my research and understanding is correct, it brought back $6.5 million. So it turned a huge profit and was their most successful film since Snow White.
You know, it's an interesting movie in the Disney canon because it is, I think, iconic in many ways. Like everybody can think of the scene of the two dogs eating spaghetti together in the back alley of the Italian restaurant. It is one of cinema's most iconic images. And it's a lovely film from, one of Disney's peak periods of artistic achievement. The art of it is beautiful. It's a kind of well-structured, straight down the middle story. But it's also not one I feel like people today are especially passionate about. I certainly appreciate it, but I'm not passionate about it. I've never had conversations around the dinner table about Lady and the Tramp.
It's just a nice movie for nice people. Although rewatching it now, I would say that this so far is Disney's greatest romantic love story to date. Not to literally today, but so far in the lineup. This is the most well-rounded, lengthy love story that he has done so far. All of the princesses meet their prince for a few hours before all of a sudden they're married and riding off into the sunset for the rest of their lives. Lady and the Tramp each get their own personalities, they get their own amount of screen time, and they get to fall in love slowly on screen. And did you know that apparently the spaghetti scene almost did not make it into the film because Walt Disney himself did not think that it could be sold effectively as a romantic scene. He just thought two dogs eating spaghetti would be hilarious in a undermining way.
If I hadn't seen it, I would be on Disney's side in this argument. it doesn't sound romantic.
So Frank Thomas, one of the 9 Old Men, he animated the entire thing himself, like sat down and made all the keyframes to prove to Disney that it could be done. And once Disney saw those key animation frames, was like, okay, yep, put it in. And now it is part of cinema history. It is one of the most iconic moments that people can think of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than anything else from this film, that is the image that comes to people's mind when they think of this movie. So I understand this movie has a bit of a complicated story of how it gets to screen.
Oh, I have been on a journey. I have been on such a journey through the internet trying to figure out what in the world the original source material was. And you know what? Everyone had a slightly different but related answer, and it was really annoying. Good gracious. So here's what I think went down. And I think the Wikipedia article might actually be quite close. But I didn't want to just trust Wikipedia. Like all of our teachers in school were like, don't use that as a source. So I was like, I can't use that as a source. So I think that as early as 1937, Joe Grant, who is a Disney artist and writer, had made some sketches of his dog Lady because he was thinking that, like, oh, she looks really pretty and her long hair kind of makes her look like she's wearing a dress, and they'd just been through a time in their family where they got a new baby, and he noticed how she was kind of having to adjust to life with this new baby in the home. So he made these original concept sketches and presented them to Disney, and Walt liked the sketches and told him to go ahead and, blow it out into a story. However, the story was not that exciting. Lady was a really sweet character, which means she was also pretty bland. Nothing interesting happened. Like, there wasn't a hook. Mm-hmm. So it kind of sat around for many, many years. However, on the internet, I have also seen this misattributed to Hamilton Luske, who was the animator who co-directed the film after Joe Grant left. Joe Grant left Disney Studios in 1949.
So this was in production, so to speak, for a while.
Yeah, so if we're assuming that maybe as early as 1937, Joe Grant was working on these sketches and then trying to make a story out of it, which would be really Disney's first original story. Everything else has been based on material up until this point. Then, in 1945, Walt Disney reads a story in Cosmopolitan magazine. In February 1945, there's a story called Happy Dan the Cynical Dog by Ward Greene. And after Disney read it, he realized that the character of the dog, who eventually becomes Tramp, would be a great foil for his lady. Yeah. So Disney contacts Ward Greene, tells him he'd like him to turn his short story from the magazine into a full novel. Eventually, that novel comes out in 1953, and 2 years later, 1955, is when Lady and the Tramp releases. So what Disney was actually doing was laying the groundwork, and I think he had a big hand in how that novel turned out, and smartly released it 2 years ahead of his movie, so that this story that almost no one had heard of is now out in society. People are becoming familiar with it. It's kind of paving the way so that when his movie releases, people know what he's talking about and they're excited for this thing. So it's very, very well played business-wise.
Man, even back then, they were so afraid of original movies. Everything had to be based on pre-existing IP, even if you had to invent that IP in order to get your movie made.
Yeah, so anyway, the internet is very confused on many levels. I'm still confused on many levels, but a lot of people will tell you that the movie Lady and the Tramp is based on the book Lady and the Tramp, but they won't acknowledge that before that, really, it all started with these concept sketches and then roped in a magazine short story, which eventually became a novelization called Lady and the Tramp. It's so confusing.
Well, it sounds like Joe Grant invented Lady, and Ward Greene invented Tramp, and Disney, as the master string puller, managed to make Lady and the Tramp happen. Managed to bring these two separate universes together.
Well, I mean, I tried so hard to find a copy or something of Happy Dan the Cynical Dog to read it and find out what was in there. There might very well be a female dog protagonist, but I can't tell you that because I can't find it. But My notes say that it was the February 1945 Cosmopolitan magazine, so if anyone has that handy and wants to send us a little scan of that, that'd be cool.
This seems like a job for the library, which is currently closed.
Not open! Oh... Yeah,
Maybe once the pandemic is over, we'll go search the Library Cosmopolitan Archives.
Yes, you are welcome for this lengthy history lesson of things you never wanted to know.
And for all you cinema nerds out there, one of the cool things about Lady and the Tramp is that it actually is the first Disney film presented in Cinemascope. It was kind of the time when people were beginning to bring home television sets, which... I don't know if you young people know this, but TVs used to be almost square.
I would just say that they are square, but I guess you're a little more precise than that.
Technically, they're a rectangle, which is in a ratio of 4:3, so they are slightly rectangular. But yes, they're basically square.
They are basically an Instagram.
Yes. And that's actually the aspect ratio that movies used to have in the early days of cinema. They also were basically square. And much the way that now that our home cinema setups are all super amazing, and there was a brief period where cinemas decided 3D was going to be the next thing that was going to keep people coming to the movie theaters rather than watching at home. Back in the day when people started getting television sets at home, cinemas decided they had to fight back with exotic super widescreen formats, of which Cinemascope was pretty much the widest. It is typically a 2.55 to 1 aspect ratio.
In layman's terms, it's huge! It's ginormous! And curved.
Yeah, a lot of the original Cinemascope theaters, the screen literally wrapped around you. So Lady and the Tramp was released in Cinemascope. Sleeping Beauty was released in Technorama in its original release, but actually it was made in the same aspect ratio as Lady and the Tramp. So if you watch Sleeping Beauty in its modern restorations, they'll actually have it in the original ultra-wide format that you see with Lady and the Tramp. And I actually think this is a great film to introduce ultra-widescreen on, because dogs are actually, they're more horizontal than human beings. So having a widescreen format makes it a lot easier to put multiple dogs on screen in conversation and get their whole body language in there. Although even so, there are moments in this film where I'm like, there's just a lot of empty space on the edge of this screen.
But the backgrounds are beautiful.
They really are.
Like, the backgrounds themselves are really, really rich and detailed. So I don't mind the extra space so much, because they put a lot of time and effort into making that space full of beauty. It's extremely different, I think, from Alice in Wonderland, where things were a little more stylized and blocky.
Well, so this movie, Mary Blair started work on this movie, but ultimately she left the project and was given to someone else.
Yeah.
Mary Blair had been responsible for a lot of the background work in previous Disney films.
Initially, they had intended for her to be the background artist on this film, but she ended up leaving the studio to become a illustrator for children's books. So all those cute little golden books, that's what she went on to go do. So the role of the background artist was given to Claude Coates, who, as I'm told, actually made models of the interiors of Jim Deere and Darlene's house, and then shot it from a dog's eye view so that he can make the backgrounds, which I just find very endearing and sweet.
It's actually, the detail in the house is really gorgeous. The color palettes in this movie are gorgeous. The use of light and shadow in certain scenes, the moment where Lady's ascending the stairs, about to meet the baby, it's all really gorgeously lit and rendered, which is obviously what we'd expect from Disney in this period. But I think, the widescreen aspect ratio, the new approach to backgrounds, the animators kind of at the height of their powers in working with animal body language and animal animation. It makes for a really rich and beautiful film. And of course, the restoration on it is gorgeous. Watching this on Disney Plus, I am just amazed how fresh and contemporary it looks. Apparently, the animators did struggle a little bit changing to a wider aspect ratio, but I think they did overall a really great job.
What kills me, actually, is that they had to make two versions of this film, though. They had to make the super wide version, and then they still had to make a second 4x3 box version because not every theater was equipped with the Cinemascope. Only certain theaters were. So in order to widely release, they had to then undo the work that they'd done.
Which would be infuriating.
Yes.
It's actually what they did with a lot of the early Pixar films. It used to be when you bought DVDs for movies, they would sell you a widescreen edition and a standard edition. And the standard edition was, again, formatted for those, square televisions we used to have. And so in the early Pixar films, they would actually have the animators go back in and take the characters and just sort of move them into the center and reorient the whole thing so it would be, legible in a traditional home video release.
Exciting stuff.
I know. I would really hate that job.
Yes. And while we're, kind of talking about backgrounds and the setting and whatnot, the town that we're in is actually based on Walt Disney's hometown of Marceline, Missouri.
Yeah. It does look like a beautiful town in that one scene towards the end where they get to look at it from the hill with all of Glorious World extending beyond the town.
Mm-hmm. Yay! So Film Nerd Corner is concluded.
Yeah, this movie, technical marvel, important cinematic first animated film in Cinemascope. But what do you actually think about the film?
I like it.
Do tell.
I have a nostalgic soft spot because I really loved dogs as a kid, and so I really loved the Disney dog movies, and I watched them a lot. I loved 101 Dalmatians a bit more than Lady and the Tramp, but yeah, I was just really in love with them as characters because they're all just very sweet and fluffy, and yay.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot to like in this movie. I think the characters themselves are generally really likable. The designs are great. They're such expressive, beautifully distinctive and rendered animals. I love the way that Lady's ears being so long give her that feeling of having long tresses like a, classical beauty. I just love how bright-eyed and open and friendly and energetic Tramp looks. And it's a very simple but well-executed story. It hits all the beats it needs to hit. It's got all those moments for pet owners, like in the beginning where they try to get puppy Lady to sleep in her own bed in her own room. And it doesn't work. It never works. You just give in and let the dog run the household.
Because they're so cute.
Well, and because Lady's crying is really, really annoying.
You mean heartbreaking?
Sure, same thing. I don't know that it feels like a movie with a strong arc or a deep level of emotional engagement.
I don't think it was ever trying to be that. I think it was just a very sweet story of what is a family like from the dog's point of view.
I do love that Lady's owners are only ever known as Jim, Dear, and Darling because that is just how Lady would think of them because she only overhears them talking to one another.
Oh, that's what's happening. I've been so confused about their names. I just thought I guess it is their pet names for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Just thinking about this movie, in theory, I think it wants to be a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast story. That's the structure of Lady and the Tramp as a title. And it wants to be kind of like a redeeming of Tramp from a wild ne'er-do-well to a family man. But they don't have the heart to really give it drama. Tramp is fundamentally just a super friendly, warm-hearted, likable character from the get-go. He wakes up, he greets some puppies in the window and obviously loves them. Then he goes and saves some other dogs from the pound. From moment one, they want it to be clear that if Tramp weren't a dog, he would save the cat.
He's voiced by a man named Larry Roberts, who was a stage actor and a stand-up comic. And to me, he sounds very much like how I remember Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain. And so he just has that really friendly and extremely trustworthy voice.
Oh yeah, I love his voice. It's perfectly pitched for someone that theoretically ought to be a little bit of a rogue, but actually is just really gentle and sweet and reassuring.
Yep.
So, I think that works well enough for the movie, but it does feel like, right, it's a nice movie for nice people. And I think it pulls its punches a little bit. It doesn't quite play up the drama or the transformation as well as it could have. Like the moment towards the end where Tramp realizes that, no, maybe I do want to settle down with someone. It's not even really a moment. There's not a change of heart.
Honestly, what this movie is the longest ASPCA commercial.
Yes, it is a very long ASPCA commercial, but very effective.
Extremely effective. To the point where, actually, well, okay, we're going to go on a whole thing here. First of all, the Tramp dog in real life that they based his design on was actually a rescue that was running around Burbank. Aww. So there was a story artist named Ermin Penner who happened to glimpse a stray dog that was disappearing into the bushes when he was driving home one night, and he tried to find it because it looked exactly like what he thought Tramp should look like, but he couldn't find the dog. And the next day he went back to the neighborhood, kind of asked around, and someone told him, oh yeah, I think that was a stray, they took it to the pound. And he and a bunch of other people ran around to all of the different pounds in the general area trying to find this dog, and this dog was saved. Actually was a girl, by the way. So Tramp is based on a girl dog, which is a fun fact. And she got to live out the rest of her days on a Disney ranch where they kept the live-action animals that were used in the live-action movies. So had a very good life.
Good gig, yeah.
Yeah. So very happy story. And when they made the live-action remake for Disney Plus, they hunted through shelters across the country and found a rescue dog to play Tramp, who is the sweetest, most lovable mutt you've ever seen. My gosh. And Yvette Nicole Brown, who you might know from Community, she plays Aunt Sarah in that version of the movie. And while she was on set, she fell in love with one of Lady's doubles, who is named Harley, and made that little cocker spaniel her fur baby. So that rescue dog gets to live happily ever after.
Yeah. So, I see why this movie couldn't at any point suggest that there was anything other than good-hearted, beautiful love with every single dog. Every single dog is perfect. None of them are bad.
So really, yes, this film just makes me want to adopt all of the pets.
Mm-hmm. Although I guess there are the dogs that try and attack Lady that Tramp has to fight off.
Yeah, that's true.
And by the way, I'm obviously I'm glad he was able to save Lady, but I don't know that I feel like that skinny dog should be able to fight off 4 giant, violent dogs at once. It's a very impressive display.
Yes, I suppose it's not about weight or how big you are. It is about chutzpah.
Yes, Tramp has some chutzpah. Don't know that the action choreography on this film is super great.
I mean, that's why most of the fight scene, I think, is shadows, isn't it?
You're watching shadows fight.
It's all finger puppets. I mean, I was delighted by how confused Lady was about the baby.
A wee bairn.
What is a baby anyway?
She even sings to herself this little song about what is a baby? That was weird.
That's sweet.
Yes, this movie has 3 good songs, and then the weird one that Lady sings to herself while going up the stairs.
Yep. It's beautifully lit.
Yes.
What can we say? I mean, I really just throughout this movie was in love with their expressions. Mm-hmm. They're so lifelike, and I don't know, they just arrest my heart.
Yeah, these are just the most charming dogs in the world. And of course, I love the supporting characters of Jock and Trusty, and even the Pound crew, even though they're not in the movie for very long, are a great distinctive bunch. I love especially the existentialist philosopher dog.
Did you know that he was actually originally intended to be a love interest triangle for Lady?
I did not. That would be interesting.
It was a very, very early draft, which obviously they did not go with. But at one point, he was a second love interest for Lady.
Yes, well, in the actual film, all he does is, occasionally pontificate in a Eastern European accent about how when a miserable being is miserable, they find another miserable being, and then they are happy. Another more miserable being.
2020, everyone.
This movie is rich in really silly accents.
Oh, absolutely.
Every dog has its own really silly accent.
So you may remember from our previous episode talking about Bill Thompson, he does 5 different dialects in this movie, which I just find incredibly impressive. He is Jacques the Scottish Terrier.
The way he just, those R's just roll right off his tongue. Oh, it's so great. Listen to it all day. As someone that can't really roll their R's, made me really jealous.
Rum punch. Okay, so he's Jacques the Scottish Terrier, Bull the Cockney Bulldog, Doxy the German Dachshund, Joe the Italian cook, and the Irish policeman who's at the zoo.
That is impressive.
Wha-bam! Mic drop.
And, as someone with Italian heritage, I do greatly enjoy his ridiculous nonsense Italian accent in this movie. It's great.
He's a delight. What can I say? While we're talking about voice actors, though, now seems like a good time to stop for a Guess Who.
Who? Tell me who.
Who? Who let the dogs out? Boo. No? Okay.
Who played the dogs now? Who?
All right. So, the actress who plays Lady is named Barbara Luddy, and she actually apparently was 46 when she voiced Lady. Impressive. Can you tell me who else in the Disney history of animated films she has played? You need only name one to win a fabulous prize.
Should I be looking before this film or after this film?
After.
I'm going to take an easy guess and go with Perdita from 101 Dalmatians.
No, but she is in 101 Dalmatians.
Oh.
However, that particular one, I couldn't place that particular character.
Well, so not a lead.
I wouldn't guess that one if I were you. Try the next movie.
Oh, is she one of the fairies? I don't know the fairies' names.
Well, you'll have to guess.
There's the short one, the tall one, and the medium one.
Most people would be like the red one, the blue one, and the green one, but sure. Which one do you think she is?
I think she's... It's been years since I've heard these people's voices. Is she the short one?
She is Merryweather, yes.
Okay, yeah.
The blue one.
The blue one,
Yes. So she is also Merryweather in Sleeping Beauty. She is Rover in 101 Dalmatians. I don't know which one Rover is, but I think it's one of the puppies.
Oh, yeah.
I could be wrong, but internet did not want to give me immediate search results. She is Kanga in a lot of the Winnie the Pooh shorts and things.
Oh.
And then in Robin Hood, she is Mother Church Mouse and Mother Rabbit, although she is not necessarily credited for that role, but that is what IMDb wanted to let me know. And I was like, oh yeah, that is her voice. My goodness. She has a very, very distinct and lovely voice. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I have a soft spot for Mother Church Mouse.
She's so sweet.
Oh, your last farthing? No one could give more than that, sister.
Yes. They've been saving it for a rainy day. Another person worth talking about, though, is Peggy Lee, who not only plays the hound dog Peg, who was named after her, by the way.
That is a very Peggy Lee character, yes.
She also voices Darling and the cats Cy and Am, and co-wrote all of the songs with Sonny Burke, and then sang 4 of them. So I guess she sang What is a Baby, that song that Lady sings on the stairs, the really weird song. La La Lu, which is the lullaby that Darling is singing. And then she sings the Siamese cat song, and He's a Tramp. So, I mean, Assuming all of this information is correct, but it is in my notes, so...
No, yeah, I recall that she voiced a lot of characters in this movie. Yeah, my only experience with Peggy Lee really is I once saw a singer here in LA put on a tribute to Jerry Lieber, the songwriter, and her closing number was a big, elaborate staging of Peggy Lee's Is That All There Is?
Who is the artist?
Trisha Tahara.
Cool.
But yeah, Is That All There Is? It's a song with a very distinct personality. Seems like the kind of thing only a certain sort of singer could pull off. And Peg in this movie singing He's a Tramp like that is very Peggy Lee.
I wish I liked that song more. Like, I really love the vocal quality of it, but it doesn't have extremely relatable lyrics that, pop up in your everyday life. So, a lot of the Princess I Want songs just sometimes feel very appropriate to the day you are living. And they're very catchy, so you just burst into those songs. There's never a moment where I feel like, yes, the song I need right now is He's a Tramp.
You're welcome.
Yes. I also am not entirely sure that I understand this old-timey mentality that because he's had other girlfriends, he's a horrible person that we need to sniff our noses at.
The implication in the movie is that he's had other girlfriends and he's left them high and dry. He's led them on. But that's all off screen, and the tramp we actually meet is like so super sweet and devoted and kind and helpful that it's really hard to believe he was bad to other people.
I think that's the problem, is the tramp that they present me with does not line up with the tramp the song is about.
Yeah, no. He's not... I mean, he's a tramp in the literal sense that he is homeless and just wanders around and does whatever. But I think the movie wants him to be a sort of, ne'er-do-well type, but he's not at all. Not at any moment. He's just great. I guess he does like to, upset chickens.
Who doesn't? And honestly, he takes her on such a nice date.
It is a very nice date.
Not that he planned it to be that nice, but...
A lovely magic hour walk through the park. A lovely dinner at an Italian restaurant. A hike up into the hills.
He gives her the last meatball, and that says, I love you.
Yeah, it really does.
When Valentine's Day comes up, men, roll your lady a meatball.
With your nose.
With your nose.
Super romantic.
Oh, so romantic. But it's really it's the way that he looks at her when rolling the meatball. His eyes are just so filled with love. Have we mentioned the expressions? That is the mastery of these Disney animators. And as we mentioned earlier, particularly Frank Thomas on that scene. Just masterpiece.
Yeah. And like something like Bambi, the animators did a lot of study and work figuring out how dogs moo, how they act, and they do all of that really well. But it is, I think, the way in which they give these dogs such human expressions that really takes it to the next level. And that's, easier because, honestly, over the years, we've bred dogs to have more human expressions because they are so closely tied to us.
The internet wanted to tell me that dogs evolved eyebrows to better communicate with us. Wolves don't have them, but dogs do.
I genuinely think that, cuteness is now one of evolution's best strategies. Because cuteness means that you get the dominant species on the planet on your side.
That moment when your dog just kind of looks up at you and their little eyebrows knit together and then they cock their head. Ugh, heart melting. And yes, that is how the cutest, survival of the cutest.
Yes. For a long time, evolution was survival of the fittest. It is now survival of the cutest.
So says the internet. So say we all. Another fun fact that I have not yet seen but look forward to when we get to 101 Dalmatians is apparently you can see Lady in the Tramp during the Twilight Bark scene. They're off on one of the London streets. I have never noticed this before, but I look forward to it. Okay, one last fun fact for you. Okay, there might be more, but for now, one last fun fact. Because I love how things just all kind of come together. So we've talked before about the actress Verna Felton. You'll know her as the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. She was also the fairy godmother in Cinderella. And in this movie, she is Aunt Sarah with the Siamese cats. Her son is the voice of Jim Dear, and his name is Lee Miller. And I just really like how it's all in the family.
Yes.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah. Aunt Sarah and her Siamese cats. In a movie full of, like, really nice people being nice, they are pretty objectively terrible.
I mean, every small town has their busybody that no one likes.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we highly recognize that the Siamese cats are offensive characters that we all wish did not exist. And, Disney tries very hard to not acknowledge them.
Yeah, especially in a movie which is just so full of sweet characters, being sweet, being kind, and, honestly full of a lot of accents and different sort of implied ethnicities for the animals. But all of the other animals have sort of Western European white, accents and implied ethnicities. And the only non-white, so to speak, characters are the Siamese cats, and they are really the movie's only outright villains.
The only minority characters, yeah. Yeah, it's not really fair that they are the only ones who just enter mean-spirited, do nothing but cause havoc and trouble for fun.
Yeah.
And then, go on their merry way. It's just mean. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's not nice. So in the... I forget exactly how they handled it in the new live action. It's been a couple months. Some crazy things have happened since I watched that film.
All right. Fair enough.
Oh, I do have another fun fact for you.
What's that?
So, you may be aware that in 2001, Disney released a direct-to-video sequel called Scamp's Adventure.
I am vaguely aware of that fact. Yeah.
So what I didn't know is that's actually super canon. Not just because they made a direct-to-video sequel, but way before that, the author of the original story, Ward Greene, in his career, he had gone on to write a little comic strip about Lady and the Tramp's son named Scamp. So there are actually comics that were published about Scamp, the son of the Tramp. And so that character is legit canon and has been for many, many years.
In the weird canon of this universe where there was a short story which then became a novel which then became comic strips. All of which were orchestrated by Disney.
I think so, behind the scenes, but I feel like no one wants to talk about that or acknowledge it.
Yeah. I guess if you're a short story writer and Walt Disney approaches you and says, I like your short story from the One magazine. I would like to make it into a Disney film. You say, okay, sure, whatever. What else can I do for you, Walt? Let's ensure my living.
The shortest stories are comics.
It's true. They are very short.
Sometimes they're only one panel.
So what is the moral of Lady and the Tramp?
Adopt, don't shop. That is the moral of Lady and the Tramp.
That is the primary moral of Lady and the Tramp, yes.
Every dog and every cat and every furry creature deserves a home. A loving home. With you.
Every furry creature. You go adopt that squirrel out in your yard.
Oh no, I want a bat. No, never mind. I don't want a bat.
Yeah.
Do we still think bats started coronavirus? Or did we get over that?
I have not heard anyone say anything about that in the last few months.
Do we stop blaming bats?
I assume the answer is we don't know, and we will never know, and there's no longer any value for making clickbait articles about it, so...
I want a hedgehog.
That would be great.
That would be awesome.
Yes, I think the moral of Lady and the Tramp is supposed to be young men, your wild bachelor lifestyle, doing whatever you please, courting a bunch of young women at your whim. Sure, it sounds nice. And maybe you get to eat at a lot of excellent restaurants and go explore the wilderness and all of that. But really, Don't you want to settle down? You should settle down. Have some kids. It's better, for some reason. I don't know the movie makes a case for why it is, but that's the lesson you're supposed to take from it.
Don't you want a collar? It means you belong to a home. It is a badge of honor. However, our cat does not seem to agree.
No.
We put a collar on him, and within an hour, he has it off again. So, that's a new battle.
Yes. I suppose dogs are probably a little less resistant to collars, but I don't think any pet ever has been like, they put a collar on me. I'm so excited.
And
Let me show it off.
I loved that scene when I was a kid. I was just like, oh, she's so happy about her collar. I want a dog to give a collar.
Yes. The moral of the story is, it's better to belong.
We all just want to belong.
Mm-hmm. And it's better to have responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Can we just, before we wrap things up, can we just talk about the fact that in cartoons, all of the girl babies always look like the mom and all of the boy babies look like the dad? And I just actually can't think of a better way to represent to the audience that these are their children. If you have multiples, like it's really hard to do that where you actually mix both parents on screen, even though this fix bothers me. I don't know how to do it better. So if anyone has any ideas.
I mean, you could try breeding together a gray mutt and a cocker spaniel and see what those look like.
Could they just be gray cocker spaniels? Would that not? That probably wouldn't be very cute.
That's one solution, yes, is you use the physical design from one character and the color palette of the other.
Yeah, see, this was simpler when they were all Dalmatians.
Yeah, alas. A little more complicated now. But you're right, it is super tropey. Does Shrek have little dragon donkeys at the end?
Well, he didn't, the movie, yes. Yes. They are half dragon, half donkey.
Yes. So there you go. That's, I guess, the approach that Shrek pioneered.
I mean, they're kind of like really funky Pegasi. Yeah. I'm just not sure how you would have been able to mix Lady and the Tramp's designs as puppies and convince the audience that these are their children. But especially way back then, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. Girls look like the mom, boys look like the dad.
But yeah, it's a lot easier to visualize, especially when your designs are already kind of, I guess this is less true with dogs, but because animation designs tend to exhibit a lot of sexual dimorphism. Women are extremely feminine and men are extremely masculine.
Women have bows and eyelashes.
Yes. It would be sort of hard to mix those designs.
Wah.
Because it's not like in general animation designs have, well, here's the character with the aquiline Roman nose and the big chin and the striking eyebrows. It's like, here is the woman and here is the man. Men do, I guess, have a little bit more actual character design, facial variation. You can have different combinations of eyes and noses and chins and mouths and...
All women look the same.
Yeah.
All of them are exactly the same. They have the same body type, same face shape, the same eyelashes, and they all wear bows.
So if all of your women look exactly the same, it would be very hard to design a daughter who looks like the mom but also looks like the dad.
They did a decent job with Melody in The Little Mermaid 2, actually. She has Eric's hair.
Ah. Right.
I guess she doesn't really look that much like her mom, but whatever, it's fine. She gets a mermaid tail from her mom's side. Yeah.
I think we can tell where that came from. It's actually a recessive gene from Eric's, great-great-great aunt.
I mean, actually she has to use magic to unlock it, but sure. All right.
Genes are basically just magic anyway.
So says the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Let's see what you did there.
Yes, obscure references for the win. Just dating myself a bit,
Yeah, we did just spend a whole section of this podcast talking about when you used to be able to buy DVDs that came in widescreen and standard editions.
Oh, we're old.
So that about wraps it up for Lady and the Tramp. Next up is Sleeping Beauty, a film which I am very much looking forward to. I really love the art and design and visuals of that film.
Despite not having seen it in many years and not being able to name the fairies.
Like I said, I love the art and design and visuals of that film. Character names are not on that list.
And we'll be joined by Stanley. Our new little love bug.
Anyway.
All right, that about wraps it up.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast player. You can write us at retroscoping@gmail.com or find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as Retroscoping. And join us next time for Sleeping Beauty, the absolute pinnacle of Disney's post-war design and animation skill. I'm excited.
I am too.
And until then, go
live happily ever after. That's right, Stanley. That's right. Let me go see what he's doing.